Thank you very much. And let me now ask our esteemed colleague, Mr. Rehberg, if he would comment on 980, and floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Ranking Member Bishop and Hastings. For the record, I do like the sponsor of the bill, and I am glad she's from another state. I want to thank you for allowing me to return to the Subcommittee on National, I'll slow down if you need, Subcommittee on National Parks, Forests, and Public Lands to testify again on behalf of the people of Montana. I'm here representing county commissioners, state representatives, ranchers, timber workers, sportsmen and women, and recreationalists who have expressed their opposition to the Northern Rockies Ecosystem Protection Act in letters, faxes, emails, survey responses, and even a rapidly growing Facebook group. All told, I've heard from almost 10,000 folks who live, work, and raise families in the Northern Rockies. I can report that more than 96% of those who contacted me oppose this bill. The land NREPA affects is represented by only 7 members of Congress, including myself, far fewer than the 75 current co-sponsors of the bill. It's telling, however, that as Mr. Hastings said, none of the 75 co-sponsors are from the districts that NREPA impacts. This bill carves out more than 24 million acres of new wilderness. That area is larger than any of the districts represented by any of the 75 co-sponsors of the bill. Representative Maloney, who is the lead sponsor of this bill, could fit her New York district in the new wilderness created by NREPA almost 3,000 times. And while you may have the votes to force your will on the people who live in the Northern Rockies, I'm here to tell you that doing so isn't in anyone's best interest. Not the folks who live on this land, not the folks that they were elected to represent. It's not even in the best interest of the ecosystem we want to protect. Let me be absolutely clear. The folks I represent support responsible land conservation. Currently, there are more than 30 million acres of state and federal land in Montana alone. That's nearly 1 acre in every 3. As a state where lifestyles and livelihoods depend on the land we live on is one of our top priorities, and we do an outstanding job. To manage these lands, stakeholders come to the table to formulate consensus-driven solutions at the local level. The federal government could learn a lot from our solutions that center around 3 words: cooperation, trust, consensus. For the Montanans who work, till, graze, hunt, fish, hike, camp, and enjoy this land, conservation is not only a daily personal choice, it's our way of life. Real conservation isn't about making tough decisions for someone else who lives thousands of miles away. That's exactly what NREPA does. The workable solutions we need won't come from Washington, D.C. We need to reach a balance that truly reflects Montana, not the ideals of powerful special interests. From Washington, D.C., it's impossible to smell the smoke from hundreds of raging wildfires that will be harder to fight if NREPA passes. From Washington, D.C., it's impossible to see the 1.6 million plus acres of dead and dying trees that result from pine beetle infections that will be more difficult to manage if NREPA passes. From Washington, D.C., you can't watch a hillside change colors as indigenous plants are slowly strangled out of existence by toxic weeds that are impossible to fight once NREPA passes. From Washington, D.C., you can't hear the frustration in the voice of a hunter or a fisherman who can no longer get to the secluded mountain ridge where his family has gone for generations once NREPA passes. From Washington, D.C., Congress pushes for alternative energy from wind and the sun. But how can we get that power and create green jobs in the process if you effectively set up a barrier that cannot be crossed? And there's a new concern looming in the minds of the folks around Montana and the country. There aren't many things we in the Northern Rockies care more about than our Second Amendment rights. Bills like NREPA create more stringent federal controls on land under consideration, but they don't guarantee our Second Amendment rights on that land. I'm concerned that NREPA has no guarantee that the federal government won't someday ban firearms on these new wilderness areas the way it just did in our national parks. And at the end of the day, this is about Washington, D.C. asking and thinking it knows how to manage the Northern Rockies better than the people who live there. I'm here to say that isn't the case. Many of Representative Maloney's constituents in New York's 14th District undoubtedly find Central Park a welcome refuge from the urban surroundings of America's most crowded city. A Montanan who visited Central Park recently shared an observation with me. Although Central Park was free of buildings and cars, many of the open spaces were cordoned off by fences. Visitors could walk and run on the pathways, but the fields of green grass around them were off limits. NREPA models its philosophy for 24 million acres of land after the approach taken in the 843 acres of Central Park. Look, but don't touch. This approach may work in Manhattan, New York, but it doesn't work in Manhattan, Montana, and that's why I oppose this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.